Greetings, all LinkedIn professionals. Today, I'm excited to share my learning journey in the Kubernetes. As you know, originally developed at Google and later donated to CNCF under the Linux Foundation. I always prefer to learn any of the open source softwares or frameworks or tools, whatever, by building my own GUI and the backend services so that I can truly understand the granularity of how things work to get the better control. It's not the initially started with the mini cube that's a single node. Then I wanted to get the true gist of the Kubernetes, how the master node works, how the master node controls the worker node. To understand all these systems, you need to have the multi-node Kubernetes. For multi-node Kubernetes, which I can't do it in a single machine, earlier I used Mac. That's the reason I moved to the Linux. Take this one. These are the multiple VMs running as multipass VMs. The master or the control plane is installed on the K8's master VM, and all my Java and Angular applications, which I have right now, my Angular applications are running on the K8's apps VM. This is a worker node, and here where I installed the broker 1 and broker 2 of the Kafka. These are another, and then Kafka. Now this Kafka is being controlled by the craft. So that craft is running on K8 VM, and database is running on data 1 and data 2. So trying to get as distributed, truly mimicking the enterprise standards to understand the concepts. So initially, when I started building Angular on 15th, I built it as a single component application. Then later I realized, okay, Kafka is completely different compared to the Kubernetes. And then I have other plans to build the IoT and many other stuff. Better to go with the micro front end approach so that they will be less dependent on each other. I moved to the Angular micro front ends as a modular approach. Modular approach means the main driving factor, the module will be from the home component, and home component should have those dependency injections, whatever the micro front end is needed. Later, I realized I didn't like it the way home module is coming. You need to install it in the home module, which I didn't like it. That as more than that, I realized the need for the component-based approach. That's when I migrated to the Angular 19 with the component-based approach, and this home component is truly defining only the routes. Apart from that, whatever that is needed, everything this one infra Kafka, a cube shift, all these are having their own dependency injections, whatever that is needed. So while then I realized even before building the GUI, you need to have understanding of the strong backend, right? So which is where the Kubernetes, how the bits and pieces of Kubernetes are connected. What are the important um, pieces of the master node and worker node? So those are extremely important. If you take the master node, you'll have the container D service, kubelet service, and this API server, container, scheduler. These are all will come under the master node. Okay. Whereas if you take the worker node, you will have the container service, kubelet service. The number of binaries that are needed for the worker node is very less compared to the master node. I mean the services actually. Container D is a container runtime service that run as a systemd service on Linux to pull the container images and for their life cycle management. So container is important both for the master node as well as the worker node. Okay, so it's needed. And then, do I need to have the scheduler service on the worker node? No. Do I need to have the API server on the worker node? No. All those API services or scheduling services are needed only for the master node because this is the one that controls everything. Okay. Okay, if you this is a important hierarchy. Using kubectl here or any external service like Angular or whatever which we are going to talk, we can communicate to the pods directly. But to communicate to the pods, API server comes into the picture here. That is the entry into the Kubernetes cluster. API server, then kubelet, and then container D, and then your actual pods. So if you see this one, this is the master Kubernetes, where I have the Calico. This is also one of the important binary for the networking. And then I have the container D services, right? To pull the containers. This is a critical component. In fact, Docker also uses this container D, right? Docker is Docker API. But since you are using Kubernetes, you can directly you can avoid Docker and directly leverage a container D to communicate with the pods. Okay, and then the other important things is a kubelet and HCD, right? The kubelet is a node agent that will allow you to communicate with the container D, and then HCD is an important database. Actually, that's where you store your your config maps, your secrets, and YAML configurations, etc. uh, I Even I wanted to poke into this HCD database by taking a backup of it, and I want to cat it because I don't want to because cat is not allowed, I don't want to poke into this database, HCD database directly, because I don't want to mess up the configurations. And now for building the backend services, this time I want to use Micronaut instead of the Spring Boot, because the lightweight framework, and I want to go with the ahead of time compilation, whatever that is needed during the compilation itself, not the just in time compilations, because I want faster performance is a key factor here, because this is a backend application, right? It's an infrastructure application. Performance is a key here. Though Spring offers after three version that AOT, but I want to compile ahead of the time for all the dependencies that are needed, so that during runtime I don't want any compilation should happen. Okay, and go in my Micronaut service builder. I'm going to use the APIs provided by Kubernetes for calling various action for performing various action, like create a pod, delete a pod, whatnot, everything. Okay, and then security is a key feature for doing such kind of actions. You need to make sure it's role based access, and you need to have the SSL certs that needs to be enabled on the Linux VM side, where you have the master Kubernetes setup, and from the GUI, if you are calling, it should also provide the private key, right? Otherwise it will not let you to delete the pod or create anything. So it's a lot to come there. And but when you explore each and every feature so closely, going into the pod terminal, exploring what is there inside it, what is there in the container, Calico, everything, you'll get the at least you'll get the gist of the Kubernetes, and you will understand the great work done by the Google engineers. Just a starting journey, more to come. The real fun will be when you build your own secret and config maps GUI, then only you will understand the concepts more clearly. More to come.